Welcome to my cellar for the first time in 2023. Hope you had a good holiday season, however you celebrated, or if you're still celebrating. And let's all hope for a better year in 23 than the one we just had. Got a bunch of things to talk about tonight. I'm going to start with some of the comments on the last one from a couple of weeks ago. And then we're going to get into some current stuff, which is not something I normally get into, but I feel that what I'm going to talk about is worth the talk. Okay, this is a rather long one. He's talking about he wished he'd gotten into the cleric and paladin conversation. While both classes take inspiration from multiple sources, to the best of my knowledge, the paladin is primarily modeled on the character of Holger from Poul Anderson's 3 Arts and 3 Lines out of Appendix N. And what's interesting is Charlemagne's paladins were actually a mixed group that more or less resembled a large D&D character party. While primarily made of fighting men, there were some who resembled clerics. We'll say yes. Both those had a great deal of influence in the paladin. Gary and I, Gary talked, I listened, and yes, there are 3 Hearts and 3 Lines was a seminal work, and definitely was the archetype of the paladin, but also, Charlemagne's paladins also had a more of a gaming-related, gaming-connected makeup. And that's where they come from. Now, oddly enough, neither of those sources is a rigid stick-up-the-butt, doctrinaire extraordinaire character type. And it's only fallen to players to turn them into that. Role-playing is all about being some things we aren't. I gotta admit, I don't necessarily understand the appeal of that archetype of stick up your butt and make everybody else toe the line, unless that's the personality type to begin with, the person who has to have their nose into everybody else's business. So, the paladin. I've used paladins for the purpose of keeping some semblance of law and order in a group setting. I've probably told the tale before about the time in Kansas City. I ran a game for a friend, for a bunch of his friends who I found out later were mostly ex-cons who had learned to play in the joint, and their ethics were somewhat suspect. And there was a cleric in the pardon my distractedness here. There was a cleric in the list of group of pretense I gave him, and I had to remind the cleric, or paladin rather, not a cleric. I had to remind the paladin of what paladins did, and no, they were paladins, so no, they couldn't pluck the baby's eyeballs out to make them talk. Paladins are interesting. They have their uses. As a game designer, if I'm going to make up a set of pregens, they definitely have their uses to continue. However, to be fair, paladins do not all have to be lawful good. Devotion to a goal or to a code does not mean it's lawful good. It could be a true neutral, if you use the 2 axes. All right, now we're going to talk about another thing that's ripping up the field right now, and that's AI-created art. One of my biggest concerns about AI art from an indie publisher perspective are those people who do use indie art and lie about it, trying to pass it off like they did it. Just yesterday, someone tried doing that, and the genius failed to realize he posted in an art Facebook group and literally every member was skilled at Photoshop enough to know exactly what he did. As a publisher, not only is there a risk of what laws may come in down the pike about AI art, will I have to pull products that used it in the future? If I'm paying someone for art, I'm paying them for their art. And that's exactly true. I absolutely agree with your sentiment there. As a former art buyer and publisher and editor, I wanted to know. Okay, now I got an early lesson in this sort of thing when a whole bunch of the early drawings had to be redone, and the front of the little brown books had to be redone because the original drawings were more than an homage to some work out of a comic. We got burned in that regard. I didn't actually. Gary and Brian and Dave did. The whole AI learning principle has to read, eyeball, look, scan, whatever, other people's copyrighted art. That's the lawyers are going to be arguing about this for a long time. A lot of them going to make a lot of money at it. Okay. Next, in the monster manual, it was mentioned the Bulettes was soon to be extinct. No, thought to be extinct. Because I went and looked up my wording today because I thought that didn't sound quite right. But they show up as a captured species in Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. I didn't have anything to do with the Barrier Peaks. It was a D&D monster at the time, and they were free to do with it as they wanted. From what I know of what they did with it, why would I have an objection? It's every writer or creator or DM. It's every one of our rights. We're within our rights to pick and choose. Now, we're going to talk more about that at the very end here. But on a common everyday basis, you know, you can use orcs or you can use hobgoblins. It's your choice. Would you touch on the subject of competitiveness in gaming? Over-competitive gamers have been the biggest issue that ends my enjoyment. Would you share your experiences with competitive gamers? Was Gary competitive? Okay. First off, we kind of got to define competitive. Now, when we were first playing, yeah, we were all competitive, like any good group of friends or companions would be. I killed a bigger one than you did. Competitive, like, for example, Legolas and Gimli counting their kills in that battle. Yeah, we were competitive in that regard. We always made sure that the parties survived and only counted up later on. Literally, sometimes 2 or 3 sessions later, we go, oh yeah, let's figure out and see if we got some level ups coming from experience. So yeah, we were competitive like that. Now, if you're referring to this more common phenomenon of the uber buffed, damn near an avatar of at least a demigod before they step onto the table competitive, it makes me retch. Racing to see who becomes a certain level should be at best a friendly between friends at the table. When you get an overly competitive idiot at the table, they do have the ability to ruin it for everybody. And often the rest of the group has to turn around and either elect a leader or turn around en masse and say, knock it off. you're harshing our vibe here. It's not mellow what you're doing. You're being an ass. However you wish to phrase it. I've seen over-competitive gamers in all three of the major aspects of gaming over my time in the business and in the hobby. I've seen over-competitive board gamers. I've seen over-competitive miniatures gamers. And I've certainly seen over-competitive role players. And the only way you can get rid of them is to exclude them, because they don't seem to learn their lesson. At least that's been my experience. They don't seem to learn their lesson from just one or two slaps on the wrist. When they're so competitive that they want to dice for everything. I saw that. I want to. I'll dice you for it. No. I don't feel that type of competitiveness has a place in gaming, which is an endeavor that we partake in to relax, to share camaraderie with friends, common interests, whatever. Now, that said, I sit down in a miniatures game, I'm going to try to pulverize whatever's on the other side of the table from me as fast and as hard as I can. But that's winning. That's the way you win. You beat the other guy as decisively as it takes. Any game is a contest. So there's always going to be a competition. When my buddy Ed and I used to play 1914 all the time, of course we remembered who won the last one, who'd won the most as the Germans, who'd won the most as the Allies. Of course we remembered that. We were the only two guys in our squadron in the Navy that played the games. We played them with each other. So, of course, it was competitive. But not in the scramble over the backs of your fallen comrades to reach that artifact before everybody else type of competitiveness. No. That harshes everybody's play. And that's just... I completely understand when you say it's taking a lot of the joy out. It takes a lot of the joy out of my gaming if I find myself in a game like that. I don't know if there is a solution, except don't play with people like that. And maybe they'll all find each other, and then they can just run around biting each other's tails until they turn into butter. I think I mixed my children's books. My players conveniently have a ship to travel between realms. Spelljammer, if you will. Greyhawk is in the Star Trek Delta Quadrant, but they don't know that yet. That's cool. Whatever works in your campaign is good, and if it enables you to either let other people set up that world over there and travel to it, and they get to be the DM for a while, or you, as the normal, most common frequent DM, just change your pace and put something over here, or buy or pick up a module and modify it to suit your world and your taste and put it over there. That's great. That's great. I have magic stone circles you step into, magic archways you step through that take you to other places. Whatever floats your boat, or in this case, your ship. Now, the last question that I was asked or was commented on in the last one is, Do I own the Dragon magazines I edited? Do I have paper copies? No. I have a copy of the CDs, but I know that's not complete either, because some pages are missing pages. No, but I sold them off several years ago. The money was attractive, and I did it. I don't have a physical attachment to stuff I've done. I have copies of the games I've worked on, but the magazines were that was different. The magazines were a chronicle of the times. What games were popular, what companies were new and coming out, and all that. Okay. Now, there's 3 things I'm going to rant on tonight. And this part might not be suitable for work. I may just get all wound up and steamed. The first one I'll generally start out with, when did we start eating our own? We being role players, and in particular old schoolers, or people interested in the old school way of playing. Recently, a gentleman shared with people on Facebook in one of the groups having to do with D&D a compendium that he had made of all the monsters from the first 100 Dragon magazines. He had compiled them all, retyped most of it, made a big index. Quite a lot of work. And he, understandably, but perhaps foolishly, wanted to show it to people. Understandably, because it was a magnificent work of dedicated research. Perhaps foolishly, because he opened himself to all manner of criticism and unkind remarks and undue pressure and just shithead behavior from a whole lot of people that responded to that thread, trying to pressure him into, oh man, you can give me a copy. Oh man, well, yeah, and accusing him of just flaunting it and teasing everybody. And I don't believe the gentleman did it for that reason. He seems like a nice enough guy. And he tried to explain that he doesn't own the rights to a great deal of that material, therefore he cannot sell it. He can't even duplicate it and give it away free because he doesn't own the rights. They still kept on beating on him. Oh, you can do it for me. Oh, come on, just a few copies. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And they were downright rude and unkind to this guy. He didn't deserve it. Do we eat our own now? To try to take some slack, give this guy some slack, one of the things that's in that compendium is the Bulettes, which I own. And so I said, okay, consider this formally. You may not publish it because it has the Bulettes in it, and I refuse to allow you. Now, they can all think I'm the dickhead. I really don't care, and you're off the hook. So as this is ongoing over the course of several days, he points out, by the way, as I've been trying to tell you for the last 2 days, I can't. And as it happens, somebody whose name you should know that posts in this thread said no, because his is part of that work that I don't own. And they still kept nibbling at him. Now it seems to have died down a little. But come on. Everybody wants the product of somebody else's work without paying for it. He's not allowed to sell it because all he did was provide the labor and the compilation and the indexing and whatever. He's not allowed to sell it because he doesn't own the content, and yet gamers are beating this guy up. And it's just not right. It's stupid. It's ignorant, apparently, because they don't understand copyright laws. We don't need to eat our own. Next rant. Again, having to do with social media. In this case, the troll lords came under attack for enforcing their own policy concerning their boards and threads. They've had as long as I've known about their website, this Facebook page. It's been there all this time, about to the effect of no politics. These threads are simply for discussing gaming amongst friends, period. Somebody got political. They got banned. They screamed, "Wah!" And now troll lords came under, oh yeah. Now I could make a couple of observations here that would probably get me in trouble too. But it often seems to me that the ones with the most strident assertions or beliefs scream the loudest when somebody challenges them, or God forbid, somehow hinders them from proclaiming their idiocy. Troll lords, you did it right. You set the policy a long time ago. This is not about politics. It's a company Facebook page to talk about gaming in general, but specifically the company's games. They were right. The crybabies were wrong. If you want to go spout political idealism, ideology. Yeah, if you want to go spout political ideology, there we go. Find a place where spouting political ideology is the norm, and don't violate because the prohibitions on doing that you basically agreed to when you became a member of that Facebook page. You know, it's a game page. It's not a politics page. I don't talk politics on this video. Not as a rule. I may have made a I may have made a statement that may have indicated how my politics lie. Having trouble with my verb tenses tonight, and besides my pronunciation. So, all right, and this brings us to the new biggest shitstorm in role-playing gaming. Once again, courtesy of Hasbro, the $9 billion company. Let's review a couple of facts before we go into the particulars. The pandemic, the lockdown, was the best year gaming ever had. Gee, why would that be? Because everybody was forced to stay inside? That's like saying, oh shit, we're going to have a 9-month winter. I'll bet game sales go up then too. Well, Hasbro apparently last year didn't have as great a year as the pandemic year. So their brain trust looked around for reasons. Did they ever consider that maybe people could go outdoors now? They went to marketing. What happened? What'd you guys do wrong? We didn't do anything wrong. We did everything just like always. We didn't do anything wrong. They went to design. Well, what happened? We don't know. We did great shit all year long. We have no idea. So they decided, oh, it's those damn third-party people. They're sucking all our money into their pockets. Now, this is a monumental money suck attempt on Hasbro. They want to monetize with microtransactions the next edition. That's not enough. Now they want to do a new OGL. For those of you who don't understand, which there may be a few of you, the OGL is the outside gaming license. It enables people, if they conform to the OGL, to use D&D type stuff in their designs. Now they're saying, no, we're going to have a new OGL. Now, here's where some of the problems come in, besides what the OGL says, but we'll look at these. Now, some of these are off EN World, and some of these are off another website. I'm trying to remember right now. I hope I do before this is over, because I don't mean to steal from anybody. They're another good news site or a news source, and it appears that there have been some leaks that have occurred that brought these possible facts to life. Now, again, these are leaks. It could be that Hasbro is leaking them selectively to see how much blowback it creates. If they enforce this as it appears to be written, they will destroy the third-party market that they feel threatened by letting it form into another format that says, screw you, Wizards of the Coast. We don't need your 6E shit. We're not too keen on some of the other ones you came out with either. Now, this is going to undoubtedly play out in court. No one little third party can probably afford the legal fees all by themselves. However, when we get into the provisions here, you'll see that there's enough of them that might band together to foot the bill to make it worthwhile to fight. All right, now the original OGL was under 900 words. Okay, it was simple, easy, says, this is all you got to do. Tell people that you follow the OGL and print that in there so that they know that you're basically acknowledging our rights to some of this stuff and we're going to let you use it. Now, the new OGL, which apparently was provided, a leak apparently came from another developer, is over 9,000 words long. It addresses new technologies like blockchain and NFTs and takes a strong stance against bigoted content, explicitly stating the company may terminate the agreement if third-party creators publish material that is blatantly racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, bigoted, or otherwise discriminatory. Great. Got no problem with that clause. Good. Because our material shouldn't be any of those. Doesn't stop other people from playing it that way, even though they're using our material, because role-playing is all about putting your own stuff and your own thoughts and feelings into it, isn't it? All right, now, the original OGL granted perpetual worldwide non-exclusive license to open game content and it's directed that the licensees may use any authorized version of this license to copy, modify, and distribute any open game content originally distributed under any version of this license. The OGL 1.1 says that you can't, that they're going to unauthorize that agreement. Now, here's where the lawyers are going to have a good time. Perpetuity. How long is perpetuity? When can we say perpetuity ended? Can you say perpetuity ever ends? If that's the case, a whole lot of people that have set up trust funds, take care of graves in perpetuity, are going to be pissed off to find out they're covered with weeds next year. Now, by ending the old one, a lot of licensed people are going to have to completely overhaul their products and distribution in order to comply with the updated rules. The people that are really going to get shafted are people like Paizo, Cobalt Press, and Green Rodent. They're the three big boys. Because they got a thing in here where there's 3 tiers to this license, and you got to pay them so much money depending upon what tier you're in. And the third tier is $750K or more, and that certainly hits Paizo, and I don't know if it hits the other two, but it's probably a good chance it does. And you got to give them like a ridiculous chunk of not your net, but your gross. 25 or 30% of your gross. So Hasbro, rather than figuring out how to make product that will sell and get people excited again, is going to go out and try to squash on all the people that they considered cockroaches living outside the kitchen door and stealing from them by siphoning money off. Yeah, they don't have enough. They want it all. Microtransactions and this. This agreement, and the document says that this agreement is an update to the previously available OGL 1.0, which is no longer an authorized license agreement. Well, I don't know how you renege on perpetuity. Or you renege on the thing that says, even if you did do it beforehand, as long as you did it under one of the authorized versions at the time, you're good. So it's going to be really interesting to see how some of this crap comes down. Hasbro and Wizards can't make it on their own, so they're going to get the other guys so they get all their money too. Well, the copyright law says you can't copyright game mechanics. If WotC's going to play this game, screw them. Who needs them? We'll just keep doing what we're doing now. When I was with Eldritch, we never went by the OGL. Because the original OGL said that if you do that, if they want to, they can take your thing and put it into one of their things without compensating you. That's the risk you ran. It only happened once or twice that I'm aware of, but that was a risk you ran under the old OGL. What does this mean? And it says that it goes on to say that they can modify the agreement with a 30-day written notice, and you can't do anything about it, and you give up the right to sue, which we know you can't give up your rights in advance, is sort of a concept, but and then they go on to say you waive any right to sue over our decision on these issues. We're aware that if we somehow stretch our decision of what it is or is not objectionable under these clauses too far, we will receive community pushback and bad PR, and we're more than open to being convinced that we made a wrong decision. But nobody gets to use the threat of a lawsuit as part of an attempt to convince us. Well, la-dee-da. I have a double-fisted salute or response to that. Okay? This is crap. It's going to put little publishers, if this somehow stands up, the little guys, the real little guys, it's not going to affect monetarily. The next step up, it'll affect a little, and the big guys, it's going to affect a lot. And so basically Hasbro is going to tell you, you can go out there and do all this great development and testing and production, and then we're going to take a chunk of your pie before it even gets to your back door. We, as the hobby, need to fight back against this. We need to be vocal about it. We need to let them know that, yes, you may have stretched it just a little bit too far here, you greedy, mud-sucking pigs. We just might have to do that. The arrogance, the naked greed of Hasbro is a shameful thing. They're going to go after guys like me, if I wanted to publish, or Jared with Old Guard Games, or Jim with Scientific Barbarian. They're gonna go after Dungeon Crawl Classic, and make Joe Goodman not publish, one of his mainstays anymore. You can't say here's an agreement forever, and then a few years down the road say, okay, forever's over. I don't think you can do that. But I guess we're going to find out as the lawsuits grind along. In the meantime, let Hasbro know. Let WotC know. Call their customer service numbers. Email their customer service email addresses and tell them you think this is a greed grab. That the OGL 1.1 is bogus. And if you really want to, well, you probably ruin your credibility if you tell them that you think they're mud-sucking pigs. But you could if that's what you wanted. I'm not advocating that. I'm just pointing out that you could if you wanted. Wow. Been thinking about that crap all day long. Hi, we're not doing too well. What can we do to make it better? Well, let's take everybody else's money away from them. The arrogance. The arrogance. I like to think if Gary's up there somewhere, he's getting ready to take a big leak. I don't know. The fact that they're going to go with this 6 and microtransaction everything to death, they look to me to be squeezing every last penny out of the product, and I predict in 2.5 to 3 years' time they'll have squeezed out everything they think they can get, or they find out they can't get any more, and they'll just let it go. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. However, I do have an appointment to come back and do this again in a week. So, if you're going to comment about the OGL, please keep your comments to 100 words or less, please. If you want to talk gaming, that's a whole different ballgame. Love to talk gaming all the time. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Enjoy this new year. Stay dry or warm, whichever the case may be. Or cool, if you're, I don't know where that would be. Maybe down in lower Florida. In any event, Dodata Gobi. Hello, and welcome to my show.
about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree,
High as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.